Hello to you and welcome to Adelante Chicago. I'm Lourdes Duarte. Thank you so much for joining us today. Bienvenidos. There are laws meant to address issues of labor and human trafficking, but oftentimes that's not enough. Immigrant communities have been managing the problem for decades, but it's not getting any better. Joining us now to explain where things stand today are two individuals. We've got Eve Gomez. She's a board member of Rahab's Daughters, and with her is Heidi Provo. She's the national head of Moms Against Trafficking for that same organization. Thank you to both of you for coming in.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Of course.
It's been a while.
Yeah, this is such an important topic because, you know, I talk about it happening in Chicago, but this is nationwide. Talk to me about what we're dealing with right now.
It very much so is happening, not just in Illinois, and I think because of the media, it seems to be more focused on Illinois since we're right here. It's affecting nationwide, and we're looking at, you know, many times we think it's just labor trafficking, but it's amongst sex trafficking as well. So here we are to try to work it out.
Bring attention to it. And you had some really interesting stats on what it means for the Latino community. 63% of labor trafficking victims are Hispanic. Describe that and what's going on? What's leading to those numbers?
Well, some of them are coming here to find jobs, to make a better life for themselves, and they're getting lured in because of the traffickers' potential and getting money.
And I mentioned to you early on that we have seen, obviously, here in Chicago and in other cities throughout the country, the migrant crisis that we're dealing with, where people are coming here trying to escape their country. Many times they're sleeping at police stations, airports, shelters, and they become a prime target for this labor trafficking or sex trafficking. Describe to me what you're seeing.
Well, in the Super Bowl mission that we did in 2020, we actually saw a case that came our way of labor trafficking. It was 3 siblings. They had moved here from Guatemala because the trafficker had brought them here. They were being worked in a restaurant, and they were working very long hours for little to no pay. They were trapped because the individual that held them had the apartment. So they were only allowed to go back and forth from home to the restaurant and work. And the female trafficker that held them actually had an idea to make more money. And the 15-year-old girl, she started to advertise online for sex. For sex trafficking.
And I think that's one of the things that we often forget is that a lot of times not only are we dealing with human trafficking, but we're dealing with it at a level that children are being exposed to it, right?
Absolutely.
You're seeing a lot of kids running into that problem.
Yes, definitely. And young people, because, you know, they're just starting out in the field. They really don't know how to spot the signs. And they're coerced in and frauded into that situation.
Yeah, you brought up the issue of signs, and Eve, I'll turn to you. There are things that people, if you live in a neighborhood and you notice these things, that should serve as a red flag to you that perhaps something is going on. Talk to me about some of those things that people should be watching out for or maybe noticing or paying attention to.
Definitely, and you know, as an advocate to the non-English community, and I don't mean just Spanish speaking or any other languages, we many times don't pay attention to any sign because we're ignorant of what can take place out there. And the first thing of what we're noticing is vehicles just passing by, vehicles parked for quite some time, especially around playgrounds, around the schools, and not enough information out there is in the language that they understand. So these are some signs, including...
So vehicles that you wouldn't normally be in your neighborhood just sort of showing up.
Unmarked vehicles, white vans, things that we normally think is, oh, someone's working in the community, probably changing the plumbing or electricity, but they're unmarked vehicles. And these are wide awake signs, but are we that wide awake to see them is the problem.
Okay. You brought up the Super Bowl, which I thought was really interesting. One of your other stats that you have here is that the highest number of rescues are taking place during the Super Bowl. Explain the reasoning behind that.
So anytime there's a large event like arts and entertainment, a sporting event, a conference that comes into town, there's multiple people coming into town. So it's an opportunity for traffickers to make more money and to recruit.
Okay. How do you work with some of these law enforcement agencies or organizations to identify that perhaps there is a problem in a certain community?
So sometimes we work with them on the actual rescue itself. If it's too dangerous for us to go in personally, we'll call on them to help. We also navigate by bringing up the case with them and seeing, what avenues we can do to prosecute if that survivor is ready.
Yeah, I talked about the laws sort of being in place to avoid issues of human trafficking and sex trafficking, but I also mentioned that oftentimes it's not enough. Is it enough or is it not? What else can be done?
No,
I'll
it's
let you
not-
take it, Eve.
It's not enough. Part of the issue is the government, and I'm knocking on anybody at this moment, but I am aware of a lot of things that are happening that could be avoided if we have enough governmental support.
So give me an example, governmental support, meaning from law enforcement?
Not just law enforcement, but the actual government coming from DC. There's a lot of things that could be avoided if we just stop allowing certain things, as in the labor trafficking. A lot of our youth need jobs, and they come in from other countries, Latin America, Haiti, wherever they can come through the borders or through Mexico. And as we know, the need is here. We're hiring them for lower income, and people know about it, but they're not saying anything about it. I think that the more we talk about it, the less we can take advantage of our youth, especially in labor trafficking and leading into sex trafficking.
Okay. Talk about Rahab's Daughters and how it sort of came about, how you all started to connect and work together, and I'll let you take it, Heidi.
Okay, so our CEO and founder is a survivor herself.
Yeah.
She was both labor trafficked and sex trafficked. They came into the realm because they were in Europe. They were seeing drug mules that were children that were actually being opened up and drugs being placed into their body. And then again, when they got to the transport, those drugs were removed and those children got infections and things. So DiNardo, our director, he really wanted to lend a hand to those situations. He had a daughter that was 5 years old at the time and really wanted to capture those moments where he could lend a hand to those survivors and bring attention to it. After that, they moved back to the United States and they saw that there was a bigger case of sex trafficking, and so they started in the sex trafficking realm to really fight against the demand and bring awareness to it.
And it's a way the organization is really meant to connect all the pieces, the law enforcement side, the government side, and then obviously the nonprofit organizations.
Yes, all the wraparound services that each survivor needs, because they obviously can't think or walk or speak like we do, being that they've been trapped.
Okay. Where should people go if they want to, one, help or need the help?
They can call our hotline. Our hotline number is 833-463-9329, and that's for community members, family members that have one of their family members being trafficked. It's also a place where survivors can call in.
Okay.
Yes. And they get a live person, just so they know.
That's always important,
They get a live person, not a recording, and we'll get back to you. So that's important.
And we've got the information right there, the website, I should say, rahabsdaughters.org, for more info on how you can help them or perhaps how they can help you. Thank you, ladies.
Thank
both for
you.
coming in.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.